Welcome to another episode. Today, we're going to talk about a topic that is dear to my heart: strategy, marketing, how to add value to every partnership you enter, recruiting, and also training. And when it comes to that, I invited Paul, who will walk us through what he's doing over at his company. Paul, if you can introduce yourself and the company you represent, we'll kick it off with that.
My name is Paul Withrow, and I represent Smart Consulting Services. That's a company that my wife and I formed at the beginning of this year. Combined, we have over 50 years of experience in transportation, trucking world primarily. We thought that starting our own company would allow us the opportunity to help out small to mid-sized trucking companies, and especially in today's world. Today's world is challenging, a lot of unknowns. How will tariffs impact things? How will rates, be dictated by that? How will public consumer demand have an impact on transportation as a whole? So we thought it was a great time to use our expertise and start our own consulting company and be able to help out trucking companies in the market that would need somebody like us to come in and help their day-to-day operations.
Awesome. I love power couples and couples building businesses together. We do that. We did the same thing pretty much right after we got married in 2019. I'd love to hear how the dynamics work. So how do you separate work and your activities during the workday, and what are your fortes versus her strengths?
I'm very lucky that my wife is not only my business partner, but she's my best friend. We have been together since 1999. We've been married since 2002. I've got a few more years, Matt, than you and your wife do together, but I'm sure someday you'll get there. How the dynamics work in our business is I'm more of the face to face with the customer and dealing with the day-to-day operations of how our customer needs smart consulting to assist them. And then my wife is more of the behind the scenes. She's got a great accounting mind, great financial mind. So she comes in and helps businesses help or set up their financial end. A lot of small companies are using QuickBooks or things like that and may not have their financials or their P&Ls set up so that it's easy for them to recognize cost savings and the things that they should do. So she comes in and helps on that side, while I am more of that day-to-day face-to-face with the customer, helping them through strategy, marketing, recruiting, training. That's really a lot of what I bring to the table. And then my wife, she works more behind the scenes. The dynamics in the office, we share an office. We work out of our home when we're not at our customers. We like to be at our customers as much as we possibly can, and we share an office here. And the nice thing is again, we have a great dynamic together, and we've been together for a long time. So we understand each other, and we're able to support each other when we have to get different things done. One of the things that we're fortunate enough to have is two young grandchildren in our life, and sometimes we'll need to babysit those kids, Freya and Luna. And, my wife is more of the one that is able to do that. And we'll balance that. If she's got to jump on a conference call, I take care of them for an hour or so. She takes care of them as I need to get things done. So that's just really a good representation of how we support each other. And we understand that as a business, our customers don't work 9 to 5. So we get phone calls early in the morning, we get phone calls late at night, and that's what we're here for, right? It is to help them when they have needs. And with my wife and I, both being in the business, we're able to balance that business with also the personal side and make sure that our relationship stays strong on both avenues.
I love it. And we have similar dynamics here at our home office, except we have a daughter, not a granddaughter yet, or daughters. And but that's more or less how it looks like when you work from home and you have little babies and pets perhaps as well, which sometimes it's interesting because everything happens at once when everyone needs you. But that's why it's two of us here. So I love that. I can imagine how that works for you as well. Now, why you have 27, if I remember correctly, experience just by you. Then your wife adds another portion to that. Combined 50 years of experience. Kind of feel like I'm always revealing your age when I say those numbers. But you look very young and healthy. So let's leave it at that. Did you decide? What was the reason? Why did you decide to start a consultancy? versus perhaps joining a company as a CMO or a CFO together with your wife, perhaps even? What is the decision process there and the idea behind?
Well, I've had the great fortune of leading a number of companies throughout my professional career and really all over the country. My wife and I actually met in Florida. I grew up in Iowa, graduated from Iowa State University, and moved to Florida after I graduated, and that's where we met and worked in Florida for a number of years. Had an opportunity to further my career and moved to California and worked for a great company in California for 7 years, and then had that desire to move back to the East Coast. We ended up in Long Island, New York in 2018. Spent a number of years there leading a company there, and then ended up in Kentucky, which is where we call home today. We love Kentucky, and had the opportunity to lead another great company here. And along the way, I'm a teacher by heart. I'm very fortunate that I'm involved in Western Kentucky's Business Advisory Council here in Bowling Green, Kentucky. So I'm a teacher by heart. And one of the big reasons we decided to go out on our own is that we know by having our own consulting company, we have the opportunity to touch more companies, to touch more people, and have a larger impact in people's lives that is greater than just one company. And that was our goal was, can we touch as many companies as we can and have a lasting, impressionable effect on what they do, and not only what they do, but what their employees do and their company as a whole. And that's the biggest driving force that led us to go out on our.
Got it. And let's talk about the clients that you love to work with the most. Who is your ideal client, and where are they local? Are you okay to work remotely as well? At least in the beginning, how does that dynamic work?
Well, in today's world, remote work is not as complicated as it was probably 5 years ago.
Sure.
Matt, I know you're sitting in California. I'm sitting in Kentucky, and we're having a great discussion today, right? And remote work can be easy. I do love being in front of my customers. So if they are close enough for me to visit, a lot of times instead of having a Teams or a Zooms call, I'll go see them in person, and we'll sit down and have dialogue. I love to interact with my customers in whatever way works best for them, right? As a consultant, my job is to be there for them, right? So, helping them, through the challenges of their business. And if I had to, select, somebody that fits that perfect profile of what Monique and I are looking for, it would be somebody that, is challenged today by wearing too many hats, right? So why does one go out and look for a consultant, right? You're doing that because you just don't have the bandwidth to touch everything that you want, but you have big dreams, and you want to achieve those dreams. I love to work for companies and owners that have dreams and know where they want to go. They just don't know how to get there, right? And that allows us to come in with our expertise and help them get there. Nothing is more satisfying to me than for somebody that I've had the opportunity to have an impact on tell me that I made a difference and that they or their company are better for having known me, having been involved with me. And that's really what I'm looking for is I'm looking for that business owner that has a vision and has a goal and just doesn't know how to get there because they're buried by the day-to-day operations that you have to take advantage of, endure to make sure that your business thrives on a daily basis.
How was the day-to-day operations in the way of big dreamers' goals? Always that.
Well, so you think about it, right? So you've come in every day, and I think smart business people have an objective that they're trying to meet, right? They have that 5 year goal, 1 year goal, 6 month, and they come in every day working towards those goals. But small to mid-sized business owners, again, they're wearing many hats. They're not only the president of their company, they're probably the CFO. If they don't have somebody running technology, they operate as the CIO as well. And they just don't have enough bandwidth on a day-to-day basis to take everything that comes at them. right? And especially in transportation. Transportation is not a plug and play environment, right? Things are evolving and happening day by day and hour by hour. So you come in, start the day with a great plan, and then one thing can happen and derail that plan for what you have scheduled for that day, and now you're putting on the CIO hat, right? Because something happened with your technology and you've got to work on that all day. So rather than getting to continue to move your company towards that ultimate destination and that goal that you have, you're putting out those fires, so to speak, just making sure that you survive the day. By bringing in somebody like me, I can help keep you on pace for your goal, right? So once I understand exactly what that goal is, then I can fill that need in a variety of roles. Not only have I built budgets and set goals for businesses directly when I was working as a leader for them, but I've also grew up in this industry. So, if I got to jump in and help fight a fire so that the owner can get back to working on that 5 year, 1 year vision and goal that they have, I can do that, because I've done that in the past and I have the ability to do that today. And I can jump in, help support the team, make sure that gets done. The owner's time is freed up to continue focusing on that vision. So that's how I can support and keep somebody on task to be able to hit the goals that they have for themselves or their business.
And it's always great to have a consultant that was with the industry for a long time and knows ins and outs of all running a business in that space. Walk us through, or maybe give us some reasons, and then walk us through the first experience, reasons to work for a big dreamer like this, a mid-sized company, to work with Monique and Paul. Why should they hire you? And also, how does the customer experience the first 30 days shape usually?
So the first 30 days is really about trying to make sure that I understand their vision and where they're at today. How close to the vision are they? And sometimes I've sat down and in that first 30 days, we've had the opportunity to rewrite that vision to extend it out because maybe they're a little closer than what they thought they were on that vision. So we can extend that out. We map that vision out. We understand how to get there, and then we understand what their business is. So in transportation, there's a multitude of ways to have a transportation company and support the supply chain system as a whole. So just understanding what that is and helping them realize what they do towards their vision, connecting those dots. That's the first 30 days. But one thing that I think that Monique and I bring as a distinct, uh, you know, advantage for companies that do business with us is again, with the history and experience that we have in the business, we've got a lot of customers that are very loyal to us, that are happy to onboard our carriers as part of their system, and so we can provide an immediate revenue stream coming in for our customers as we onboard them. Due to the 27 years that I've got in the business, the 20 plus years that my wife has in the business, again, that's an immediate revenue stream that comes in and helps support them. Not only that, the flip side of that is the cost side. First questions I ask is show me your P&L, right? I need to see 6 months, a year, because I can look at that, and I've done that for so many years that I can immediately pick out low hanging fruit and big wins. I had a customer that we signed on in March, and we're going to save them $200,000 in fuel costs this year. And I was able to recognize that just by looking at 1 month of their P&L and then bringing in contracts and contacts that I have in the fuel side of the industry to come in, and I negotiated all of their fuel for them. It actually helped them negotiate their on-site fuel vendor, who wasn't probably being as aggressive with discounts as maybe they could. Once this other vendor came in, not only were they able to utilize that vendor for anything that any trucks that weren't fueling at their domicile location, but the fuel on site, that vendor came back and dropped fuel substantially to make sure that they retained the business. So in the first year, $200,000 in fuel savings that they're going to see, and that's if the company stayed the exact same size as they were when I got there. But they've already grown, since I've been there with the additional revenue that's coming in. So that $200,000 is going to grow on top of that. And that was again me walking in. And in the first month, recognizing that that was a low hanging fruit that they could take advantage of quickly.
I love that win, and thanks so much for sharing. I can imagine the enthusiasm that in your clients on your client's face, and then happiness that happened. I mean, sometimes it's as simple as that, bringing someone who has a different set of a pair of eyes that can look at your from your company, your books from a third party perspective, and just that peace of mind where. As a business owner, when you're running a business, especially when you're running a day to day, you have so many things going through your head that you won't see this, you won't recognize it. Plus, you have your network, you've done it, and those are things that you can simplify and obviously find more efficient ways to purchase fuel or whatever that is. So, congrats on that journey and how it started for that client. Now you bring in a smart strategy to your clients. You also have a smart company name and a smart logo. Let's talk about the SMART acronym and what stands behind it. And if you want, I can pull it up here or show it over my screen for those who don't
Yeah.
know it.
Yeah. So this is taken off of our website. But smart consulting. So, to me, I've always been enamored with powerful logos. If you look at the FedEx logo, and if you look at it and you realize that in the middle of Fed and X, there's actually an arrow pointing forward, you
Oh,
probably, you may or may not know that today, but I guarantee you, the first time you see it, it will never go away. It resonates forever with you. Nike, right? The swoosh. I mean, everybody knows what it is. It's an iconic logo. So, when my wife and I were putting this together, it was important for us to have a logo that represented who we are, what we did, and capitalize that in one look. So if you're looking at the logo, obviously, our name is over the top, Smart Consulting. Delivering tomorrow today, and I've had the opportunity, Matt, with you through this dialogue to talk about my goal as a consultant in helping businesses. Every business owner, small, medium, large, has a vision and has a goal for where they want their company to go. Delivering tomorrow today is Smart Consulting's way of saying, you have a vision, our job is to help deliver that. And by bringing us in, we can deliver it faster because we've talked a few times today about how, our job is to help reduce the clutter, right? And help businesses be able to move forward and achieve their goals. Delivering tomorrow today does that. That's what we do. We come in, and we help you deliver your vision faster than you could without us. The middle of the logo, I think, is great for a number of reasons. One, if you look at the back behind the chess piece, and we'll get to that in a second, that's a sunrise. You can see it if you look at it, right? The sun rising in the background. And the sunrise to me symbolizes a fresh start. Every day is a new opportunity to win. I love watching the sunrises. When my wife and I lived in Long Island, New York, we would wake up early and watch the sunrise, and it's just fresh, it's new, it's hope, right? And I think that symbolizes that in our logo. And then the chess piece. So if you talk about the chess piece, so as I interviewed for positions of leadership in my past, my wife was invited along on many of those meetings because the owners wanted to get to know her to make sure that the position was the right fit for our family. And they would always ask her, "Hey, talk to us about Paul and why he's a great fit for this position." And my wife had, such a great take on that. And her statement to them was always, while other people play checkers, Paul plays chess. And what she meant by that was checkers really is, one move at a time. Your opponent makes a move, you make a move. In chess, you've got to be thinking multiple steps ahead or you can't win. And business is really, more chess, less checkers, right? If you're not, preparing for, the different scenarios that can come up and able to react accordingly because you've already thought about it and you already have it planned out, you're not going to be successful. But if you're playing chess versus checkers in business, you're going to be successful. So that's one reason that we have the chess piece in the middle. The queen obviously is the piece that is in the middle of our logo and represents two things. One, the queen is the most powerful piece on the board. She has the ability so many times to win the game almost single-handedly, but she's the most powerful piece on the board. And our company, Smart Consulting, the queen, that sets on our company is my wife. And, I wanted to make sure that when we built the logo, we showed people how important that she is not only to our company, but to me personally. I sit here today in this position to be able to help other people because my wife has been unselfish in her entire career and she's made the moves that our family needed to put me in a position to be able to, along with her, start our business.
I can only imagine how you're approaching your clients and business clients and their business affairs. So thanks so much for walking us through. That's very, very strategic there. And yeah, I mean, there's a story behind it. I think the story element is what draws people in and makes it memorable. I will have to struggle really hard to forget what you just told me about your logo. And when I see it, I will know that this is Paul and Monique, and then what's behind it, and even the colors behind it, behind the queen. I mean, it's very thoughtful.
Well, Matt, I think you mentioned something that's important, right? Is if I put that much time into the logo, what does it look like when I come into your business, right? And because the world moves so fast today, and with AI being a part of our world, things just move at light speed pace. So all movements are important, right? Everything that you do is important. We don't have a lot of time for wasted steps in our day. And that's what people get out of smart consulting, right? We're not here to waste your time. Everything we do is strategic and it's about delivering value for you.
Interesting. I mean, it's makes sense. Have you read? You reminded me of the book Trade Line Leadership, because you talk about a lot of principles from the book, and I was wondering if you ever read that. It's
I
about
have not had the opportunity to read that one. I do enjoy reading books, and in my past, one of the things that I really enjoyed was taking good leadership books and developing future leaders in our company. So I would take employees that we had kind of identified as those that we thought could fill important leadership roles for us in the future, and I would lead them through books. I would lead them through projects so that they could learn outside of sitting in that role that they were currently doing, but it gave them the opportunity to kind of stretch to see if they could truly sit in that position one day. And if they were much better prepared for it once they got there.
yes, and the book is talking about consultancy, so you will definitely enjoy reading it, and perhaps it will give some fresh ideas and some takes. But I know that throughout the conversation, you've mentioned many principles from the book as well, so I can imagine you're going to resonate with that book. What's most fulfilling for you in your new journey as running the consultancy versus what you've been doing in the past, being part of the company, essentially as part of their team? Now you're running your own show. What's most fulfilling about that?
Well, I think that the most fulfilling part of that, Matt, is again the ability to impact more people and more companies. Working for the companies that I have in the past was fantastic. Love the opportunity at each and every one of them. Have fond memories at all the companies that I worked for. But by opening up Smart Consulting, now I have the ability to impact at a broader reach and a bigger scope. So that's what's important to me, right? I've talked about how much I enjoy teaching, how much I enjoy winning, right? We all enjoy winning, right? And a win for me is seeing that new owner realize that they're going to save $200,000 plus in fuel just by me coming in and helping them negotiate rates. Texted, right before our call today, I texted, an owner of the company I'm going to see tomorrow, and we're going to sit down and talk about some exciting new business opportunities that we have in front of us, that I've been able to bring to the table. And the text that I got back from him, just you could hear the excitement and how much it means to his company to be able to have these opportunities and onboard these customers. And that's huge for me, right? When I read that email, big smile popped on my face because I knew I'm having that impact that I'd always hoped that I would have. And it's just on a much broader scale than working with one individual company.
Yeah, that makes sense. And also, I believe with every project you take on and every success, and not even all the successes, also the failures along the way will make you more valuable for the future clients that come in, because you have that extra experience, and you are adapting to the to the changes, not new changes, but changes that are happening every single minute. Every time you open up anything on the internet, there's some new AI, new robotics, automations, and what have you. The world is changing every second. So it's important to stay up to date and obviously find out what could be that chess move, the 3, 4, 5 steps ahead that your clients can make. And quite frankly, coming from based on my short experience compared to yours, but I've worked with several companies in multiple countries on several continents as well. So I know how difficult it is when you're in the operations side, when you are doing sales, operations, management, and fulfillment, supply, all of that as a small size company. You can't be thinking about your next 4 or 5 steps. I mean, sometimes when you relax over the weekend on Saturday evening when you should be with your family, that's when you think about your next step or two. But that's definitely powerful if you can bring on someone who has experience in the industry, treats your business like your own, like his own, and also has time, and this is your focus to think about those 3, 4, 5 steps ahead. Let's talk about perhaps mentorship. You've mentioned reading, maybe some leaders that have shaped who you are today. What's the story behind that?
Yeah. So again, man, I've had the great fortune of working with some great people in business. And the companies that I've worked for in the past have all been privately held. So I've had the opportunity to work with the owners or possibly a second generation of ownership that was directly involved in forming of the company and growing the company. Right. So it gives a fantastic and unique opportunity to understand how they got where they did. And more importantly, what their vision on how to get where they wanted to go. What you did in the past to get here isn't what you're going to do in the future to get there. And I think that's a powerful phrase to learn from. But I want to call out, a couple of individuals specifically. When I went to travel to California and took my first COO position, and I worked for 2 gentlemen there, Rick and John, and they had literally built this company from the ground up, right? And they were the first 2 drivers of the company. They were the ones going into the customer as they built it and telling them, just give me what is most difficult. We want an opportunity. They had taken that one truck that, they had slip seated themselves, and one drove during the day and one at night. And they had built that into a 300 truck fleet. They're an LTL refrigerated company on the West Coast, and they had just built this remarkable business. And they brought me in because they were towards the end of their career, and rather than saying, you know what, we know everything and there's nothing else for us to learn, and we're going to teach the children, the next generation to come in and do this, they said, you know what, let's go find somebody that has been doing this at a relevant level, but probably is a little closer in touch with the technology changes of the day and really how quickly the world does change. So they brought me in to help teach their children the business and help their children be able to be in a position to take over for them one day and continue the excellence of the company. So I thought that was just an amazing foresight, right? It wasn't it wasn't that they brought their children in and handed them the silver spoon and the corner office. Both of the children worked every job in the business. So their son started off washing the trailers out. He worked in the shop. Their daughter came up and did the day-to-day billing and worked through the accounting side. So I thought it was just wonderful to be able to see how they built this company from the ground up and all of the hard work that they put into it. Whenever I would travel with Rick, they had multiple warehouses, and I would sometimes be involved in working with the manager of that warehouse and the things that we needed to get done while I was there. And I would look up and Rick was gone, and I would invariably find him out on the dock with a broom, and he was sweeping or cleaning up, and he never forgot the things that got him where he was, right? And he always had a passion to make sure that those small details were done, even if he had to pick up the broom and do it himself. And he never put himself above anybody else. The company truly, truly loved both Rick and John, and that's why their turnover was next to nothing. But again, they took the time to make sure that the company in the future was in good hands. They brought myself in to help teach their children the things that I knew that were going to put them in a position to be successful. The third person that I want to bring up as far as a mentor was actually the consultant that helped their business. So his name is Bob, and Bob was instrumental in leading the hiring campaign that Rick and John ultimately decided on me to come in. And Bob was very instrumental in assisting me, right? He was that guy that I could talk to on the side, or talk about challenges, or run different scenarios by him, right? And he was always challenging me in a good way, right? And helping and supporting me to continue to move forward, continue to evolve, continue to be there for not only Rick and John, but their kids. So Bob always had a special place in my heart, and we've stayed in touch over the years, even after I left California. And when I decided to start my own consulting company, Bob was the first person that I called. One, he's been there, and I'd love to continue getting advice from somebody that's been doing it professionally for decades. But two, I consider him a friend, I consider him a mentor, and I know that he has a special place in his heart for me. So I wanted to share that with him, that my world had come full circle, and I was now following in his footsteps.
What a great story. And do you know if the company, how the company is operating right now here in California? Did they did the kids
Yes, they have the daughter, and so one of the things I really enjoyed about that experience, and I still talk to Rick, on a very frequent basis, and all of the employees there that I worked with, I consider friends, and still talk through, and they can pick up the phone at any time and call me, and I will help them with an issue or a challenge. But when I got there, it was a brother and sister that my job was to help educate them and prepare them to take over the company. The brother was older, and so that was the natural fit, right, for the leadership of the company moving forward. But I didn't stay just on course of saying, okay, well, we're going to make this work, and then we'll find a role for the sister. As I got to understand both of them, the drive to lead lied in her, right? The drive to be a part and support the company was in him. So I sat down with the owners and I told them, I said, hey, if you want this company to be successful, and more importantly, you want your children to be successful, this is the way you need to do it. You need to let her be the leader of this company someday and support her as she prepares to do that. And you need to support him as he makes that decision that he wants to be in a support role in the company. And you know what? They did it. She is the one that is leading the company today, and her brother is supporting her and supporting the company. And they're both, flourishing and doing a fantastic job in those roles because, again, Rick and John took the time to listen, and they weren't preordained on what was going to happen. And when I came in and sat down and evaluated that and said, no, 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 she's the one that will be the leader of this company someday and take it to new heights. They both got on board, and the company is very successful today.
Bit. And there is the first two episodes that I recorded for the podcast were from with companies. One had 100 years in existence, and another 99 years, four generations. So I feel like that's a common theme in the industry. So if you're listening, if you have a company that you would like to one day pass over to the next generation, reach out to Paul. He'll help you set that up and then prepare them for and identify what are their strengths and where should they fit into that ecosystem of your company. I love it. Paul, I want you to imagine one thing. You are somewhere in Long Island, early in the morning, sun is rising, you're watching the sunrise. Next to you is Paul from your early days. What advice would you tell Paul?
I think that I would tell him not to be afraid to change, right? And I think ultimately that's what led me to be here today. And in business, right, so often failure comes from the inability to adapt or change, right? And Matt, you hit on it a few minutes ago when you were talking about the world just moves so fast. It's changing constantly. It's changing so fast. The reality is we can't stay up with how fast it's changing, right? We're always going to be running behind as it changes. But I would tell him, hey, make sure that you're open to new ideas. Don't close opportunities that come in front of you. And the other thing I would also tell him would be cherish connections. In the business world, connections are everything, right? You can be the smartest person in the room, but if you don't have the ability to connect with everybody else in the room, you're not going to be able to be successful and get everything done. I have, through those years, I've maintained connections. I have had the opportunity to lead people who are now leading companies. I can't tell you how many times, Matt, that I picked up the phone and called the connection and said, hey, I need some help. And they were able to help me, or vice versa. My phone rang and it's somebody maybe I hadn't heard from in 6 months and they needed help, and I was able to help them. So those two things: don't be afraid to change, don't be afraid to adapt, and cherish the connections that come along in your life, because they will always be important, even if you don't understand it in that moment in time.
And I would add to it that, Paul, if you're going to be surrounded by people that are smarter than you, you're going to absorb it, and that's going to be of benefit for you. Great advice. I'm sure there will be somewhere a younger version of you watching and listening, and hopefully the right message will reach him at the right time. That's what are we looking forward to. Paul, it was a great conversation. Thank you so much for stopping by. Smart Consulting is a pretty young company compared to your experience in the industry. So looking forward to seeing your content, how it grows, and hopefully reconnecting on a frequent basis and see how perhaps we can educate each other with and help each other out with that fast-moving, fast-paced world of AI that we've been talking for 45 minutes, and there's probably so many different new nuances and changes in all of the industries that we will never be able to keep up. I agree with you. Thank you so much again for your time today.
Matt, thank you for allowing me to come on and connecting with you. I've thoroughly enjoyed it and look forward to following your career and the things that you do in the future as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.